But who is the picture of? God. Right? Yeah, Christ himself. So he is the perfect image of the Father. So he comes in, and now he takes on our nature and basically fixes the image. So you would come back here, and now you would, like, the picture would be back to normal. So then we can go, so now sin doesn't have a, like, my picture is completely fine now. Does that make sense? So I wanted to start with that point first, to understand that we were all made in the image and likeness of God. Now, were we all made the same? But wait, we're made in his image and likeness. Were we all made the same? Excellent, 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 excellent. So every single person, does anybody know how many people are in the world? It's over 6.5. It's between 7 and 8 now. It's between 7.5 and 8. Every single one of those people are made in the image of God. Every single one of those people are made in the image of God, according to his likeness, and are made differently. That's the beauty of God. You mentioned plants, animals. There's millions, right? Every insect, everything is different. So how come we're the same? I'll tell you a funny story. Growing up, I wasn't really, my parents forced me to go to church, okay, growing up. And they had to. I mean, as an elementary kid, you don't choose like, oh, mom, dad, like I need to. I mean, I wasn't like that. Junior high hits. I started having some friends at church. So I started wanting to go to see my friends. Okay? High school hits. My friends and I ended up going to the same high school. Like where my church was in New York. My high school, the high school was nearby. Everybody lived around there. We had a YMCA. So we had a basketball court that we'd go to all the time. And then we'd have a couple of food places near us. That was my life. Monday through Sunday. like every single day, because we'd have church, we'd see each other. It reached a point where I'm like, why do I have to now meet them at church? I used to go to church to meet my friends. Now they're in my English class, and I'm having lunch with them. I don't need to go to church to see them. When I started taking it more serious, there's a lot of things that happen, and we can go into that another time, but when I started taking it more serious, somebody told me something. Try to go to church and look at people that you're trying to be like. So I went to church one day, and I look around, and I was so upset. Because I'm looking around, and I see these uncles and aunts that look miserable. They're just sitting there. They just don't look, I'm like, I don't want to end up like them. To me, I wanted to have fun. And the way they looked miserable. So I started thinking, do I have to, in order to connect to God, do I have to be a certain way? So we know that we're made in the image of God. But do I have to be a certain way in order to be Christian? Now I'm going to go to your results. When I asked you guys a question, the first question I had was, do you have the potential, personal question, to be a saint? And honestly, I received almost the same answer that when I did it in a group of 70 people before. Same exact answer. Out of the 2, 5, 8, 9, I don't think you guys were here when we did the activity in the beginning, right? Were you guys here? You were here? Both of you? You weren't here. So out of 8 people, only 2 thought that they can potentially become saints. And I think, and the reason why I want you guys, this is a core of our spirituality. What is sainthood? What is sainthood? How would you describe it? The lights on. How would you describe it?
I would say it's somebody who is basically like the closest to what we're supposed to be as Christians. Like basically that guy, that girl.
Okay.
That epitome of, what we're all striving to be as Christians.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else want to take a shot at it? 70 times. I think the definition, I think we're messing up. The reason why most people here, I think, didn't raise their hand, because the word saint is given to Saint Mina, Saint Justina, Saint Philopatia Mercurius, Saint George, Saint Shenouda, Saint Pope Carolus, these are giants. So who am I to say I'm close to them? That's like saying, oh, you like basketball? Do you have potential to be like Michael Jordan? If you ask me that, I love basketball, there's no way. Or LeBron or Kobe or these guys, no. But that's not what sainthood is about. Sainthood, okay, you said it, it's the closest to what? Okay, so the word saint comes from the word holy. Like sanctification comes from the word to be made holy. Okay? Let me ask you a question. When you think of, forget the English. And personally, I'm like the way I think, everything's in English. But in order to properly understand this,
There's a Volkswagen in the parking lot with lights on.
no, it's okay. In order to fully understand this, you need to look at it. What is sainthood in Arabic? Does anybody know the word? Or for saint, the word for saint. Qadis or Qadisa, right? What's the word holy in Arabic? Yeah, like Qudus, right? Qudus. So what are we saying when we say, so that's it? Do you believe you can be holy? Do you think you have the potential to be holy? No, I'm being serious. We'll get to the personality stuff, but I want to this is core first. Because this part will reflect how you live your life. If you don't think you have the potential to be holy, your life will not ever be holy. I heard. If you don't think you have the potential to be holy, you will never be holy. Like when we say strive for greatness, you've heard of that term before. LeBron uses it, and all these like athletes use it. What does that mean? You're creating a goal, and now you're aiming for this goal. If I don't set a goal, can I aim for something? Like when you guys decide on a major, why do you have to decide on a major before you start? For the most part, I mean, why? Why does that matter? Exactly. You set a goal, and then you, what? You meet the goal. You work towards the goal. We as Christians, when we're made in our image, in the image and likeness of God, what is our goal? No. Huh? To be like God. Heaven is a result. Heaven is a result. I used to think the same thing. But that means that you can never achieve your goal while you're alive. The goal is to live heaven here on earth. That's why we say on earth as it is in heaven. Like, there should be no difference. That's why, what happens, what's the first thing Abouna does when he's here, when he enters into the church before liturgy starts? Like, the first thing that happens. So Abouna's in the altar, and what's the first thing that happens? Open the curtain. Okay? He opens the curtain. Why? Just so he can see the people? I mean, that's part of it, but... Exactly. So the holies are inside. The outside is the world. The idea is that we're opening up the curtain, that we're allowing heaven and earth to intersect. That's why some people say the liturgy is heaven on earth. Okay, now going back to the holy part. Sainthood is achievable. Now, does God want you to be Saint Mina of Nifayet? Does God want you to be Saint George, the soldier? Does God want you to be Saint Justina? What does God want you to be? He wants you to be you. He wants you to be a saint. Now, were Saint George and Saint Mina the same? Were Pope Kyrillos and Pope Shenouda the same? Like, I'm trying to use people now that our parents' generation lived with Pope Kyrillos, or like they've known Pope Kyrillos, and like we grew up in a generation of Pope Shenouda and now Pope Tawadros. Are any of them alike? So, another question. What about these guys? The disciples. Who chose them? Why? Why did he choose them? What was his purpose? What was the plan? Okay, but he could have asked anyone. Why why did he need a group of people? Like, everybody preaches. Okay. They're all different kinds of people. So now, that's his group. That's his posse that he picked. He said, you, follow me. You, follow me. You, follow me. He also asked others to follow him. Non-disciples. And some of them walked away sad. Right? The rich young man. What do we know about these 12? What do we know about them? Some were fishermen, not all.
Yeah, some were, one was a physician, there was
Well, and there was no physician there. Luke wasn't part of the 12. But yes, absolutely. We can expand it. Tell me about the 70, the 70 disciples. So some were physicians. Okay. What about personalities? So tell me something. Does anybody know anything about any of their personalities? Okay. No. No, it was it John and James? No. I don't remember which ones. John and James are sons of Zebedee. Yes. So I guess the same. Yeah. So, who else were a set of brothers? Does anybody know? Peter and Andrew, right? Even to the point where Andrew is the one who brought Peter. If anybody knows that story. Peter, the one, like, look where he's standing. They always put him the closest. But Andrew's the one who brought him. He said, come and see. Check this guy out. He's amazing. Come and see. So he followed him. What do we know about Peter? A little bit. When? When was he skeptical? Okay. He lost the faith, all right? When he doubted Christ. But what else do we know about his personality? He's the type of guy. Even when what happened with when Christ was washing his feet? He no one's speaking. Christ starts washing the feet. He jumps up. What does he say? No. What are you doing? You can't wash my feet. And then Christ says what? He said, let me wash your feet. This is a part I'm showing you so you can wash others. That's why I came. What did Peter say? Did Peter say, okay, Hadir, and sit down? He said, okay, fine. Then if that's the case, then wash all of me. Give me a full shower. That's how Peter responded. So Peter was very outspoken. Peter was the first one to speak. If you're reading the Gospels carefully, could be like a fun exercise. While you're reading, look at the dialogue. See who speaks first. Many times, it's Peter. Like when Christ is walking, he says, what do people say, who do people say that I am? And then some people responded, some say you're Elijah, some say you're John the Baptist, some say you're another prophet. So then Christ stops and he's like, who do you say that I am? Who's the first one to speak? Peter. He goes, you are the son of the living God. That's how he was. How was John? Softer, quieter. He's known as the beloved. Barely spoke in the Gospels. You'll never hear him speak. Very rare. But what did he do? He wrote the Gospel. So he was paying attention. It's not like he's kind of like walking in the back. He was the youngest. He wasn't just kind of walking in the back like bored. He was paying attention to every detail. Even some details that weren't written in the other three. It was covered in the Gospel of John. So the reason why I'm bringing that up, all of these disciples went to transform the world through God's grace and through the Holy Spirit that worked inside of them. They went to different places in the world. They started the churches. They were saints. But they're all different. The devil will mess with you and tell you have to be a certain way in order to live a godly life. You have to have a certain personality. No. You're a funny guy, you're a funny girl, you make jokes. Use that to glorify God. You're a quiet person, you're like you're internal focused, like you're just kind of introvert, use that to glorify God. You like to read, use that to glorify God. You like to play ball, use that to glorify God. You like to sing, use that to glorify God. Anyone can be a saint. Not just anyone can be a saint, unless you guys have that goal set in front of you. What happens when a person doesn't choose a major? If I don't know what I want to be in the future, guess what? I'm not going to be anything. If I don't have a plan or a goal, God can change my goal, God can change my plan. But then I reestablish. I reset the plan. But it's very, very important for us to think about what my goal is. So each person's goal is to live a godly life, is to become a saint. The goal, we are among saints nowadays. We're living among saints. There's saints within us here. There's saints in our churches. Doesn't mean you put a name tag or you change your name on Facebook to Saint Danny. That's not what you should do. Because sainthood is not a title. Sainthood is not a title. Let me ask you a question. Can anyone be a servant? Or do you have to be a certain type of person? Absolutely. But the question is, I asked you, can everyone be? Can anyone be a servant, right? I'm going to change the question. Do you think it's mandatory? Do you think it's necessary for every single Christian to be a servant or no? No, I don't care if you're teaching Sunday school. Every single person, every single Christian, it's not optional. I'm not talking about the certification test. I'm not talking about that. Yeah. Then none of us will, No. I'm not talking about the certification test. I'm not talking about teaching Al-Han, teaching Sunday school, being a deacon. No. I'm not talking about that at all. Each and every single person here was assigned as a servant. You know when? Right after the Mayrun, Chrismation. Because you became Christian at that moment. Once you become Christian, that's it. You start your journey. And your parents are taking the promise on your behalf. But you reach a point where you pick up that promise. Right? I always encourage people to read what your parents promised. Right? And if you like, I'm sure Ra'id, when you read it or when you heard it, the command for your daughter, saying like that, yeah. I highly encourage next baptism for you to listen to the command. The command happens at the end, after the procession. So you don't even have to go early for the baptism. It doesn't matter what happens. So just be there when the deacon or Abouna or whoever reads the command. It's long. But these parents are making a promise. Does the promise depend on if this kid is good in school, good in sports? Does it matter if they're funny, if they're not, if they have a quiet personality, loud personality? Does it matter? We use those as excuses instead of gifts. Where did we get our personalities from? No. Why are you so into science? No.
Because like when you ask a question, I always think from which angle.
But there is no which angle. It's one perspective. Science gives us a different aspect. But for the most part, where do we get our personalities from? God, and what else? Our families. Right? Our environment, our families. Like, people start, like, ask me, like, when did you start liking sports? Before I was born. My dad is obsessed. Like, soccer is his life. He went to the World Cup to follow Egypt lose, watch Egypt lose 3 straight games and came back. It's just crazy. So from an infant age, I liked sports. So it helped form my personality. But does that mean that I am different than somebody who his family and he started liking science at a young age? Does that mean that I have less of a chance to be a saint? I want you guys to really think about using your gifts, your personalities, how you can be a saint. There's many different icons. I don't see any here. But what does an icon show? What's that? A story. Okay? So what is this story? Annunciation. This is when the Archangel Gabriel appeared to St. Mary to tell her the good news, to share, to announce the good news. Now, you can look at this icon and see so many things. Have you ever seen the icons? Oh, perfect. Saint Justina. Sorry, I'm going to ask you guys to look at the icon of Saint Justina. What's this? The church. Why? She's Christian. So St. Mary's not Christian, there's no church. St. George has no church. What is this? Why? Okay. What about over here? When they were martyred, what does this show? That's how they were martyred. So an icon shows a story of the saint's life. I want you to think, God willing, when you have an icon. I didn't watch the movie. Just read the story. See if it in the movie. Read the cynic song. No, but I'm giving you guys, I really want you to think, the worst thing in the world is thinking that you don't have the potential to be a saint. That's not just, it's not humble. It's not a humility act to say, oh, I'll never be a saint. The fathers of the church strived for holiness. Remember, we said, forget the word saint. The word saint is really confusing in English. But in Arabic and in Greek, it helps. Does anybody know what saint is in Greek? I know it's hard. Huh? Agios is what? Holy. No. like ag. Yes. So Ageya is female saint. Is male saint. So do you see the relation between the two words? Same thing as Qudis and Quddus. So the problem is we use the word saint and it means nothing to us. There's no connection between saint and holiness. But all it means is a person who lives a holy life. A person who lives a holy life. Has anybody ever done the Myers-Briggs test? Have you done it before? Okay. What does the Myers-Briggs test tell you about yourself? Uh-huh. Okay. So what does it tell you? Like it gives you these categories and it gives you...
Like where you fall on the scale.
Exactly. Does it matter where you fall on the scale? In as far as your life in Christ? It's called Myers-Briggs. It's a personality like assessment. It's do we believe in that? It's done a lot in schools and things like that. Yeah, you'll do it a lot inside class. I've been on retreats that we've had it, and things like that. So my question to you is, does it matter? Exactly. It doesn't change my end result, my end goal. My end goal is to be a saint, to live a holy life. God said, be holy as I am holy. Right? So it doesn't change the end result. But it does matter. Why? To know how I can serve. To know how I can live this holy life. If I am extroverted versus introverted, it's going to affect the way I serve. It's going to affect the way I pray, the way I study, the way I read. All of these things are important. Saint Athanasius says, in order to know God more, you must know yourself. You must know yourself. The more you know about yourself, the better of a Christian you can be. Because we're made in God's image. The idea is to return back to that image. That's what holiness is about. So I want you to kind of tweak in your mind those who didn't raise their hands to think about sainthood not being something, oh no, that's saint, no. We're blessed nowadays because we've seen the people who are martyred are considered saints. Were they theologians? Did they graduate from seminary school and baptize millions of people and do miracles? No. They were working in Libya and they were asked to give up their faith or else they'll die, and then they said, no, fine, no, I will never give up my faith. So they died. Guess what? They're saints. They're entering the Synaxar. If you look in the Synaxar book, there's a few pages at the end. They're empty. They're empty pages. Why are they empty pages in the Synaxar? With who? Us. Like, yes, added martyrs, added saints. Saint Pope Kyrillos now is a saint. Saint Archdeacon Habib Girgis is a saint. These are modern day. These are people who just they were living not too long ago. Like our parents saw them. And now they're saints. Yeah. Yes. There's a man from Chad. There's a man from Chad. And he just happened to be with them in their compound. So they were all in one compound or a couple of compounds, and they were just working. And when the ISIS members came and dragged them out of their cells or compounds or whatever, he just happened to be with them. The rest were Christian. The rest were from like Upper Egypt and stuff. So they went out, they lined them up, anybody who saw the pictures and they went and asked each one. And he was like fourth or fifth, or like somewhere in like in the middle. So they asked the first one, and basically they asked each one. And they said, give up your faith or you die. And each one said, I will, no. My faith is Christ. And you see there's a beautiful picture of one of them looking up to heaven, kind of smiling when it's happening. And then this man, who wasn't Christian, when they asked him, what did he say? It gives me chills every time I think about it. He said, their God is my God. Their God is my God. He's from the country of Chad. He's like completely dark skinned, like Africa. He does not look anything like them. He just happened to go in the flow. And actually, his body, they asked for it back with his family, back in Chad, and they were able to, now his story was a blessing to another country where maybe there's no Coptic church there. So there's a beauty in standing up for who you are. He could have said, listen, you got the wrong guy. I don't even know these guys. But he was so amazed by their faith. He said, no, their God is my God. He saw what happened. He wasn't the first person. He saw what happened. If he wanted to get out of it, he could have. Because, okay, I'll say whatever you want. Tell me what you want me to say, I'll say it. But he gave up his life. Yeah. Just like the thief on the right hand. What was he? Did he ever hear the Sermon on the Mount? Did he ever see Christ's miracles? He just accepted Christ. Accepted Christ. These are, again, different people. The saints were not cookie cutters. You know, when you're making cookies, you use the same shape. We're not made in the same shape or size. We're all made differently. If you decide you want to be like someone, personality-wise, this-wise, 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 guess what? You're saying, God, you messed up when you made me. You messed up when you made me. I don't like how I am. But God, it says in the scripture, He knew us when? Before we were born, in the womb. He knew us. He knew us by name in the womb. King David says what? We are woven. Anybody sew before? Anybody make anything before? Huh? You made a pillow. Awesome. When you're making the pillow, you made a pillow, your friend, your classmates, everybody made it. Did it come out the same? There's details. We're all different. And God reminds us by our fingerprints and all that stuff. So, does anybody still think that there is no way you can be a saint? That's not how we think. There's no potential. I am the worst person. How can I ever be a saint? Anybody think? Please. Okay. So there's two types of decisions. One is your decision. You're living a godly life. You're living a holy life. Living a life of repentance. You're partaking of the sacraments. From the time you were baptized, you're christened, you became holy, you're consecrated, just like the altar is consecrated. I can't go and grab a sandwich on the altar right now. It's consecrated. I can't touch it. I can't. Why do I walk in without my shoes? It's consecrated. So we receive the same oil that this gets. So we became holy from the beginning. And we live, and obviously we fall, we go back, and fall, and back, and constantly fall, and keep getting back, and we repent, and all this stuff. So we live a holy life. So we decide that. Who decides that you're going to get an icon and you get in the Cynic Star? That's after 50 years after you die. They have a discussion about your life and your impact on the world, and then they put you in wherever. But are there people that are not in the Cynic Star that are saints? Yes. Cynic Star is there to show us different examples of people who've made an impact in their life. To show us it's like this day in history, but it also reminds us oh, you can do it. Like great stories of saints that help us. So it's not about the decision. It doesn't matter if you get an icon or not. At the end of the day, you're a saint. If you're living. St. Paul said something. Can somebody, sorry, really quickly, hold on to that question. Somebody open up to Romans chapter 1, verse 7. And we'll end with this. Can someone read it? No, Romans chapter 1, verse 7. Okay. Who is he talking about? Who is he talking to? Okay, and then? Beloved of God. Okay. Called to be. Were only the Romans beloved of God equals called to be saved. Does that make sense? So he's calling out, I'm writing this to the beloved of God, those same ones who are called to be saved. It's not an elect group. In Christianity, there's no elect group. You started your sainthood when you were chrismated. So it doesn't matter what your personality, it doesn't matter who your friends are. It doesn't matter what foods you like. It's a matter of using who you are to live in the godly. Any questions? Does anybody disagree? Oh yeah, you had a question. Yeah, sorry. Excellent. Okay. Can you get that up? Can you pull that up? I'll show you. It's a very good point. How are you cold? Right, yeah. The holies for the holy. What is the holies? No. No. Communion. Communion. No other, that's God. Right? So yeah, I like how you think. Like you say, it's definitely something God because the holies are capital. That is communion. So the priest declares and says, the holies are for the holy. Then what does he continue to say? Blessed be the Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God. He has sanctified them by the Holy Spirit. What does the word sanctified mean? Be set apart or to make holy. So he's saying the holies are for the holy. It's kind of like the beginning of the confession. Before, years ago, before one of the councils, that's when the liturgy ended here. There was no more confession. This was it. Actually, there's people who studied the liturgy said that there used to be a break between the holies for the holy, and people used to confess at this time. Because, how do people respond to this? The priest is saying, the holies are for the holy, blessed be the Lord Jesus Christ, sanctified by the Holy Spirit. How does the congregation, how do you respond to that? Not me. Not me. One is the Holy Father. One is the Holy Son. One is the Holy Spirit. Not me. It's more of like a response in humility. The holies are for the holy. It's also a reminder that you can't just walk in there. Don't just walk in there and take communion. We have to be aiming for a godly life in order to take communion. Does that mean that we have to be perfect to take communion? No. Communion is what helps us become perfect. But don't just stroll into church and go take communion. Don't just eat something in the morning. Don't come late to church and take communion. Because then you know what? We're not believing that it's holy. The holies are for the holy. It's made for us. That's why people have to be baptized and chrismated before they take communion. They're made holy in the life of the church through chrismation. But these are very good questions. Very, very good questions. Any other question? So our new goal, to be saints, to be holy regardless of your major, regardless of family situation, regardless of friends, regardless of personality. So do we all believe we can be saints? Yeah. It's also vice versa too. The more we know God, the more we know ourselves. Why? The way we do. God knows us the best. The more we know who God is, the more we can understand ourselves better. So, in that same way, the steps I would take is to try to spend. I would start this way. At least a half hour with God every day. A half hour. I have 24 hours. 24 hours. I recommend a full hour, but to start off with, forget that. Start off with a half hour. That's one Netflix show. That's half hour with God. In that half hour, talk to Him. Start off with a prayer. An honest prayer. Just ask Him. Use the Beit. It helps guide. King David was going through the same stuff we're going through. He's trying to figure out himself too. Until God said what about him? About his heart. A man after my own heart. In order for King David to understand himself, he had to reach out to God. So the Psalms help us. Then reading the Bible. A little bit. You know when you read the the Bible, I'm not a fan of the reading of the Bible just to get through it. But if you read the Bible, I don't care if you read 5 verses in that half hour. I don't care if you read 3 verses. You're not little kids. I'm not telling you to read a chapter here. That's junior high. You tell the junior high school kids to read a chapter a day because they need structure. They need to know, okay, this is chapter 1, I need to stop at chapter 2. They need that. You guys are old. Even look at how junior high and high schools are organized, where you have your bells and this period and this period and this class and structured all in one. Look, what's your college schedule look like? Everything's all over the place. Online, this, that, so in college and grad, and what you spend a half hour, read as much, as long as you receive a message. Receive a message. Spend 20 minutes reading the Bible. 15 out of the 30 minutes reading the Bible. And in the last 10 minutes, talk. I know people who like to journal. Because journaling is very private. There's some people in our church that have a hard time speaking in prayer. Just their personality. So they like to write. So they asked me, is that okay? I said, that's more than okay. And I'll give you one better. Write it, put it in an envelope, seal it, and if you want me to put it on the altar while we pray communion, we can do that. Or pray the liturgy, we can do that. So that they feel, obviously, when they write it, God hears it right away. It doesn't have to go on the altar. But that they feel that this is more than just me saying my word. Write it. Speak it. Record it. Whatever you want. I'm not a writer per se, and I don't like writing prayers. But I know people who love it. And the prayers are beautiful. And they're honest. And they're convicted. But that's how it is. So the best way to know ourselves is really spend time with yourself. We're very scared to do that. How many of us have driven with no radio, no music, no phone call, no nothing, for a long period of time? How was it? I'm talking about no entertainment. No one in the car, no music, no nothing. Now imagine spending that time and just talking to them. Try it. Don't do it when you're tired. Do it when you're awake. It really makes a big difference. Any other questions?